determine where our emotions go, and emotions are meant to get you in motion, right? So when they're they're originally designed so like if you're really not enjoying something, it's your indicator to move away, right? Or to say something or ask for help. The challenge is when we let our emotions drive us instead of us driving those emotions. So we pump our emotions and we get in motion toward our vision. Let's hear some wins. Wins or takeaways. There's Sheila. I love yours lately.
Oh, you were moving so fast your camera couldn't keep up with you, girl.
Yeah, and so Sheila, Dr. Barbara and Barbara and Dr. Andrea, you got messages. This is Halls. You got messages to schedule your podcast as some of our top community builders. So please get in there. We want to get you in there immediately. So don't play around on that. All right. Anthony from the Netherlands. What is up?
All
What's
right.
in the Netherlands, Anthony?
Here they
Anthony.
all come.
Getting dark here at the moment. So I think you guys are all in the morning. I'm in the evening. So
Who invited you to our community, Anthony? I'm curious.
Ali Madawi.
Nice. We like Ali Madawi. He's a lot of things here. Awesome. So welcome to have you. Our global master trainer. And so many things. Yeah, Sheila, share your wins. Thank you, Anthony.
I'm gonna share. Hello. So happy to be back. Missing one day. I'm just like, oh my gosh, I don't like it. I mean, Disney's nice and all, but this is so much better. So I was just on with an interview with Tanya Tanika to get my article. So that's a great win. Yes, yes. And got the Go High Level.
Stop. Sheila, hold on. Does everybody know what she just said? She's about to get on Fade Media, the largest publication in Canada for women under 35, because she earned it. Give her some love.
She earned it by inviting some of our top people here, by being in service.
Yeah,
Yes.
like I'm asking, I'm gonna work hard so I can get on that article thing. I mean, Sean gets on there. I'm like, hey, I need to produce something here. But yeah, good job, Sheila.
I'm
Give
sure
us some
you
love,
appeal to women
everybody.
under 35, Jimmy. I give it up for you.
Yeah, well, he's one of the men who support women, and we need that globally for the female nervous system to understand what it's like to share space with a man who absolutely is dedicated to his wife and his children and shows up as a great father, husband, a servant in his church, and then shows up to make sure that we make the impact in our businesses and our lives. Jimmy Ezzell is absolutely someone that we want to highlight and celebrate, and just like Sean Osborne. But back to Sheila and to community to say this a little bit more. Many of you have heard we have an alliance with Phase Media. They're doing an article on the Diva Network first, but then we will be doing weekly articles on different community builders, mentors that locked arms with us like Sean. And they are the #1 media outlet in Canada. But let me tell you, Nike goes to them, Facebook, Instagram. They do events directly for the United Nations. And so it's a really big deal. And this is not a sponsored article, but if you wanted to pay to have an article in there, it's $2,500 just to pay to have an article. And it will not say sponsored under this highlight of Sheila and her servant leadership. So, yeah. Okay. Okay. Next.
What's great is a lot of you on here will be there soon too. I mean, because you guys are doing so much. And
Jimmy, don't tell them. Don't tell them.
Sorry, I better be quiet. I get excited.
Between the two of you, we can't keep any secrets here. None.
Too many good things for sure, and just more coming. So thank you, Adore. Thank you, team Jimmy, Jennifer, everyone, and even Sean for really launching this off for me to even get the Go High Level. And I'm just like, all right, I need VAs behind this. So I'm like, wait a minute, I don't even know how to work the VAs. Let me find somebody to help me work the VAs. All I know is I need to get this going because it's wonderful. And plus planning the Orlando trip for the Divas. So just because I spoke up The divas are coming to my hometown. And that's possible for everybody because Adora is the type, she says yes and figures it out. So our fearless leader, thank you so much. And everyone in the background to make sure we can follow through in our strengths. And I'm just having this conversation with Tanya, even more excited and just so full of how we are lifted up in our own right and shining in our destiny, what we were meant to do, and linking arms to uplift each other. And like, even if I introduce you to somebody and you guys make something work together, it's all about yes, not like, oh my God, just stole my person. It's like, okay, great, let's do it again. Let's do it again. And I am just, it fills my cup so much to hear and to even look. When sometimes I look, I'm like, you're here because of me. And you're here because I was like, my big
I
mouth.
matter. I make a difference. I
do.
deserve to be here. I belong. Like all of
that
that's
that once I'm too much, I'm too loud, that's a gift. It's a gift, just like Justine, reclaim your voice, right? Like we really have to step into our voice. Like sometimes when we're really pushed down to say we're too much, or you're too bossy, or you're too this. If you're too something, it's in a great way. You need to find the group that sees your too something as your gift and help you elevate, and wherever your weakness is, those people are in those groups, and trust that the right people are going to come into your life that you're looking for to make you the whole system you need to be where you want to be. So thank you all so, so much.
awesome. Alora had her hand up a few times. So she kept going. She doesn't know how to hit her virtual hand. So we'll go, Alora.
I don't know. It doesn't show up. Anyway, first of all, Sheila, you are a speaker. I mean, all that ad hoc was amazing. And my takeaway was Wednesday, there was we ended sort of at noon, and then there was the 1 o'clock networking. Well, only Sheila and Nadia and JKN and me were on there. So we got to spend a whole hour with each other. It was fabulous. A lot came out of it for all of us. I got to really appreciate all that Sheila is doing and what's on her plate with daughters and, reality of family demands and all that stuff. So that was wonderful. And, Nadia is so intense. It's like, so we're imagining a retreat for the divas in, I think, April or May in Baja California on that amazing thing. I missed yesterday. It felt like I was missing, a leg or something. But anyway, I am getting a lot from the connections. I am not yet good at the application of the email, et cetera, but the connections themselves are bringing value, and I think even future, income connections and all that. So,
Alora, thank you. And you will hear me say it again and again. The community is the most valuable part of anything we're going to bring to you. And I am still not tech. Like I haven't looked at my own emails in about 3 weeks, except for when someone says, please go look at an email. And then I go look for that email because I buy too much in my email and I'm done with technology by the time. But it's because of who I know, Ali, Jimmy, JKN, Anna, and these different people that their genius zone is tech.
yeah.
And our synergies came together in collaboration. So community, collaboration, that then you can get sold on the how, but then you get a VA or you get a tech person in here that you can collaborate with. And then you go faster and farther together. So I'm so glad you're getting the community piece, Laura. We love you. And I also love that it felt like missing a leg not being here. Ed is in Mexico and he's been messaging that they feel so lost without us being, with us today. So, okay. Thank you, Alora. Justine.
I'm really just going to second the community piece. And even this morning, I was like, I can't make a follow-up call with Africa. Oh my gosh, which it hurt. But I also want to say this. When you start to find your tribe, sometimes other tribe members that you were in start to fall away. And I'm experiencing that. There was somebody that I had worked with in Africa. I'm not even going to get into the details because the details really don't matter. But I was asked to like not use this person's name in reference to blah, blah, blah. And I thought, I'm here doing good work. And I was always trying to do good work. And I'm happy not to use your name in the good work that I'm doing. So I want to honor this tribe for being so accepting, for being so working together, and the help and magic I'm receiving. It doesn't mean like everyone's going to understand it when I try and share it, but I'm feeling it. And some things are shedding, which I need to shed some things. So if anyone else is experiencing that, I want to honor you. Is as we grow, sometimes we have to leave some things behind. So I'm honoring that today too.
Put your hand on your heart, because how many of you know that you have to let some things go sometimes to step into that next level? And it could be as simple as a TV show you've been watching so that you have more time, but sometimes it's people. Like some people go through, they just don't, and it's not about right or wrong. It's about where you're going is different where they're going. Maybe their own things come up. I've heard before, I love this phrase, and this is not what I'm saying happened to Justine, but your haters are your elevators. You know, like some people,
I like it.
Well, some people are, it doesn't matter why they do what they do. It's just in this moment, it doesn't, but it's important to know that that is kind of par for the course. And I don't believe we have to create that we leave people. We can rise people with us. And sometimes it happens, right? They shed off on their own way, or we let go of some things. So Justine, thank you. Thank you. All right. So we are going to dive in. Anything else before we dive in? Okay, we're a little over. Anyway, so we'll get going. How many of you are getting incredible breakthrough in the how with Sean? Yeah, let's see it. Yeah. And what I hope that many of you got, in case you didn't, is that Sean started with a vision of help and impact, you know, impacting people, because he realized what, you know, I don't know if you heard, at one point he was homeless as a younger man, buried that just so that he wouldn't have to explain himself, deal with any of that. Went on to be wildly successful in the corporate arena, and still is handling $1 billion or multi-million-dollar contract with Chevron. And along the way found Think and Grow Rich, and realized that, oh, he actually could create success again, and that he didn't just get lucky or gritty or whatever. And so he started down the transformational path and became passionate about that. And so building his email list was twofold. One was to impact more people and share the mindset techniques and things that helped him break through, and also to create his retirement. He told me that he did all the research. He's a data guy, and an email list is how he saw, if I have an email list that I'm giving value to, that is how I will secure my financial future, which is a big deal when you think about the level of success and income and family and children, right? It's one thing if you only have to replace $1,000 a month. It's another thing if you're really creating, you know, long-term lifestyle. So he did that in a very affordable way. And so whether, and he is, Alexa thinks I'm talking to her. So what I love about what Sean has been sharing with us is that this is something that, whether you have an email list of 15,000, 40,000, or you have nothing, that you can learn how on $5 a day to have, he built in a matter of 4 years, a 200,000 person email list. His very first launch to his community, where he made an offering, he did 6 figures in one launch. Also important to know is he's not an email your people every day kind of guy. In general, his people get 1 email a week from him, except for when he's in a product launch. And he chooses that very carefully. So he's disrupting this whole system to the point that John Maxwell teamed up with him and had him teach this same system to all the John Maxwell coaches. And this is a demonstration of one being part of the Diva Network community. We're always going to take you exactly where we're going. We're going to bring you our top who, and we're learning it right with you, hot off the press. So we do make sure it's credible and valid before we bring it to you, but we're rising together. And so if you're just joining us, you want to start at day one with us, but I just want to celebrate and thank you, Sean Osborne, for being the generous human that you are, the guy that broke through outrageous barriers and obstacles and created success, and then as a contribution committed to other brothers and sisters get to do that too. And so let's go ahead and spotlight Sean for today's lesson. And you guys go crazy for Sean Osborne. Alora, come on, give us some Goddess Alive. Justine, let's go. And that's her thing, by the way. If you're new to this, she's known as that's her thing. All right. Thank you. Okay, Sean.
Well, thank you, Adora. That was sometimes I truly don't like hearing that type of stuff. It's still hard to hear. You know me. It's like I don't like those. I like staying in the background. But yeah, so some of the stuff that we're teaching on here is, again, a year ago, this was not my plan. I never planned on teaching people how to build lists. It was not my thing. What I'm teaching you is what I do. What I'm teaching is this is how I grew my company. This is how I grow my company. I use this stuff every single day right now, doing the things that for my coaching, we're doing my thing. So, what we're teaching you and what we're going through is, again, stuff that I use every single day. And it's how I grew my company, and it's how I will continue to grow mine. So I wanted to kind of do a recap again on some of the stuff we've learned, because I think it's, again, we're just at the starting point. We're not trying to be perfect. We're just trying to get things done, trying to get things started. So, every single day we're getting better and better on, who our dream customer is, getting that avatar down, knowing exactly who we're talking to. And that goes to, once we know that, we know what pain points they have. We know what problems they have. And once we know that, now we can start building the tools, the resources to be able to help them to get further, to get faster, to help resolve one of the problems that they're having. Again, that's the lead magnet. That's what we're building. Then we went and we're saying, okay, now let's put it on a landing page or a lead page or an opt-in page, whatever you want to call it, so we can start getting those people that we've identified onto our list. And then, here's where we are now. We now have our list, right? We are now starting to grow our list. We're starting to bring people onto our list. And just remember that whole process that we went through, all of those steps, all those things, you're going to get better and better at that. No one starts anything at good. You just have to realize that, you're going to suck. Your first landing page is going to suck. Your first, that's just the way it is. We have to start off, and we have to give ourselves permission to suck before we can start getting better. So this whole process we're going through, you will get better. It will get easier. You're going to get much more clear on who your ideal customer is. You're going to get much more clear on how you can help them. So just go with the process. This is a process, and we get better and better. So we're at our list. We're starting to build it. And for me, today is probably the most important step that we've gone through. This is the most important thing that we can do, the stuff that we're going to talk about today, because building the list is the easy part. That's the full automated. I literally do not have to touch my list building at all. Once I've set this stuff up and I've got my lead magnet, that's nothing, right? It takes me no time. I never see it. It's like it's just on automation. So that's the easy part. The hard part is what we're going to talk about today. And that is, once you have your list, that you've got to be able to keep them engaged. You've got to keep them, you've got to keep adding value to them. You've got to keep them. So now that you've got this asset, again, it's building, we talked about this all through, earlier, it's like it's building the relationship. This is what it's all about. It's not about a list. It's not about having all these names. It's about building the relationships with the people that are on your list. So one of the things that I like to, associate these things in various ways. One is, the first rule of your list is never withdraw more than you deposit. Never withdraw more than you deposit, right? You've got to think of your list as a savings account. And just like a savings account, you've got to deposit before you can make a withdrawal, right? You have to make that deposit. You have to add that value before you can take any money out, before you can take anything out. So you have to add value before you can ask for a sale, right? And you always have to, just like a savings account, you always have to add more than you withdraw. You can't just add $50 to your savings account and then expect to withdraw $300, right? You've got to make sure you've given $300 in value into that savings account before you ask for that withdrawal. So when you're working with your list, always keep that in mind, that you always have to be adding value to them every single, I don't want to say day, but you always consistently adding value to the people on your list. And so so today I wanted to talk a few strategies on how you keep your list engaged. What are the things that you can do to keep them engaged? How can you do it? And I'd like to talk about this in a way that I want you to date your list. Right? I know that sounds weird. You're probably saying, Sean, what do you mean date my list? I want you to communicate with your community like you are dating them, right? Let me ask you this. Would you tell someone you're dating every time how they can improve themselves? Like every time you talk to them, you say, hey, because again, we're here to help people, right? So if I'm sitting here every day and I'm sending emails out once a week, twice a week saying, hey, do this and you can get better. How do you think that's going to go with someone that you're dating? It's not going to go very well, right? And so here's a side story on how I kind of learned this lesson. So back in my first company, this was back, I'm going to date myself, but this was back in the late 90s. So this was in like 98, 99. Started my company, we were in the process of taking it public. And my wife at the time worked for me, which she'll never work for me again, she said. And I did the bad thing. I gave her a performance appraisal. So how many you would give your significant other? So it kind of in a joking way, but that's the thing. You cannot, when you're communicating with your list, you can't just try to add value in the sense of telling them what to do, right? So again, I like to think of it like you're dating. So what things would you talk about? You would ask questions. You would keep them engaged. You would, you do these things in order to keep them looking at you, to keep them engaged with you. It's not always about sending emails out saying, do this or do this or do this. And then the next thing is, would you ask, I know there's some crazy people on here, but would you ask them to marry you on the first date? Most people would say no, right? You don't ask them to marry you on the first date. Well, when you get someone on your list and you ask for a sale, the next email, asking for a sale is like asking them to marry you. You want them to come in and marry you, and you just don't do that. So if you treat as a mindset, so and I put this up here because I really want you to look at this as a whole. How would you treat someone that you're dating? How would you communicate with them? How would you keep them engaged? How would you, ask them questions and do all these things? Because that's exactly what you're doing with your list. You're doing the same thing. You're building a relationship with your list. That is all you're doing, is building a relationship with your list. And, normally I would include swipe files. I would include various things when I teach people how to build lists. But nowadays it is so easy to use AI to build, engagement emails for people. And there's so many ways to do it and to add value without telling people how to go do something, or you need to go do this, or this is how. So by doing that, so I'm going to go through just like one of the ways that I keep my email list engaged. Now, everything I do, every post that I make, every podcast episode I do, everything I do is in alignment with what my list would want to know or needs to know. So everything I do is based on that. So if you, on my podcast, every single episode is done in a way that will help my list grow, will help them solve a problem, will help them go further. So I don't want to redo a whole bunch of things, right? I want to do one thing. So my podcast is a great example. The only reason I do my podcast anymore is to keep my list engaged. Most people will start a podcast thinking they're going to grow their list. They're going to use that as they're going to use a podcast as their lead gen, as their lead magnet, right? As their, to get people in. And it just doesn't, for me, they don't work that way. They're not great at growing your list. But if you have a list and you start growing your list, doing a podcast is a it's like a ninja way of being able to take so I will do my podcast episode, right? I will take that content from that episode and I will chop that up into my social media for the week. I will chop that up to the emails that I send out to keep my list engaged. All of that is to keep them engaged without telling them what to do. I will put it, for instance, an email. Hey, this week we talked about XYZ. You should check out the episode or whatever it is. They will go back and listen to the episode. So it's almost like a self-perpetual wheel. I'm using the podcast to keep them as a mechanism to keep my list engaged. I'm not using the podcast as a way to grow my list. Sure, people find it and they come on my list from the podcast, but in general, almost all of the people from that listen to my podcast are from my list because I use that as one of the avenues, one of the mechanisms to keep them engaged. And I think like last year, the podcast hit top 20 entrepreneur podcast in 52 countries last year. It's not because it's a great podcast. I mean, hey, I'm biased. I think it's a good podcast, but it's not because it's a great podcast. It's because I'm using that as a mechanism to feed my list to keep them engaged. So they go and they listen to it, or they go and they look at the post, but I'm not doing multiple things. So in other words, I'm not going out and I'm not writing a podcast. I'm not going out, I'm not doing social media. I'm not going out and creating emails every week for my list. I'm using that one thing I do, that 15, 20-minute thing that I do, and that drives everything for the week. So I'm not redoing. That's the whole thing is, again, I'm lazy when it comes to doing this stuff. So if I can find a way to automate this stuff, I am going to automate that and use that. Here's the thing, if you're going to do a piece of content or you're going to do something, find at least 5 ways that you can use it. Find at least a couple ways that you can use that same thing to keep your list engaged, to make your posts. Because again, the only thing I use social media for is to get people on my list. I don't care if you like my post. I don't care if you follow me. Of course I do, but that's not the point of it. The point of it is everything I do is to get on my list. Because again, my company is my list. Everything will fall from the list. So keeping the list engaged is one of the most important things that you can do for your list. Because again, you can build it, but if you don't talk with them for 2 weeks, 3 weeks, 4 weeks, they're going to forget you. They really will, even though you've got to stay on their mind. Like, would you go out on a date with someone and then not call them for 4 weeks and call them back and say, hey, what's up? Like they're going to say, who the hell are you? Who are you calling me? Would you not call someone you're dating, for a month or two and then call them and say, hey, want to get married? Buy this, right? You can't do that. So it's like always, it doesn't matter what it is. It doesn't have to be big things. It doesn't have to be, huge things to keep them engaged. It's just staying on top of their mind every single week. And I recommend at least at a minimum 1 email per week to your list. And again, it's an engagement thing. It is not to sell them. It's to add value and for them to take action. So one tip that I have for you. So on the emails that I send, I normally don't have all of the stuff within the email, right? The email is the cliffhanger. The email is I've got to go do this. I've got to go click this. I've got to go listen to the podcast, or I've got to go read that, or I've got to go do this. So my goal on my emails is 1, keep them engaged, but then have them take an action. I always have a call to action on everything you do, whether it's a post, your emails, always have a call to action to do something, not buy, but to do something. Comment on the post, DM me, whatever it is, but you're always teaching them it's okay to push the button. It's okay to say yes. It's okay to go forward. So my emails are normally what I call a cliffhanger email. Most of them, this week on the podcast, you'll never guess what happened, this, and this. Oh, tune in to find out. Right. So it's keeping them engaged. I'm adding a little bit of value even in the email, but I'm leaving it with a cliffhanger for them to go and take action and to do something, which is, for instance, on that is to go and listen to the full episode. All right. So we can, I don't know if you want to do any questions in here, Adora, or.
Let's go ahead and go gallery view. Oh, okay. This is so valuable. How many of you, this is a relief? And how many of you, yeah, JKN. Yeah, and so go ahead. I want you to say what you want to say, Jennifer. JKN. Did you want to say something? No.
Oh, no. I was just saying I used to do a call every single week and my focus or my goal I thought was to grow my list, and my list wasn't growing. People were watching the replays and they were loving the content, the people on my list already. And so I quit doing it, even though the people who were watching it loved it. I'm like, this isn't growing my business like it's supposed to be. And now I have this major light bulb, like I need to start doing that again, because it gave a lot of value to the people that I had on the show, and the people on my list had a reason to engage with me every single freaking week. So Sean, amazing. Thank
That's
you.
awesome. And guys, those of you who don't have a podcast, you could simply interview someone in a Zoom, record it, put it on YouTube, send that out weekly. Less is more, right? So this isn't to have you go, oh my gosh, now I need to figure out starting my own podcast. Some of you already have a podcast, do that, but you can implement this in the same way. Before I
I'm sorry, go ahead.
Go ahead, Sean.
I was gonna say, even don't look at it as just, hey, go start a podcast. Even if it's a blog, in other words, if I'm doing something every week in my business, like I would always write something like a blog or something. So, and I want you to look at this in two ways. Again, I want to get as most mileage out of anything I do. So not only do I do like the podcast, or let's say you're doing a blog or you're doing something, and I put that as content to keep my list engaged. I'm doing two things when I'm doing that. One, I'm keeping my list engaged, but I'm also seeing what resonates with my audience. So anything that you're doing, at the same time that I'm doing it and keeping them engaged, I know if I get a huge amount of people that go and watch it or listen to it, or they go and they read the blog or whatever it is, I know that content is good, and I know that it resonates with my audience, so I will do more of it. So use it for, again, don't do things just for one specific purpose. If I'm going to do it also as a way to do a proof of concept, or to see what really is resonating with your audience, because then you do more of that, and obviously you get more and more engagement.
Okay, before we have the next questions answered, because I know we're going to go into VIP where we go deeper and we can ask all these questions. What is the main thing you want people to do today?
So the main thing I want people to do, or to start doing, is as they're growing their list, to on a weekly basis keep them engaged. And some people call it, for instance, like a soap opera email sequence, or a whatever you want to call it. Even if it doesn't necessarily, you're just telling, even if you're literally just like a soap opera, you're telling stories each week of something, right? It's just, all you're doing is trying to, again, keep them engaged and keep their eyes on you. You want them to, when they see your email pop up, that it's got an incredible hook. We talked about hooks yesterday, right? Use that hook generator to start your email subject lines, because you want them to, when they see your email, whoa, I want to click on that and see what it is. And even if those emails are just like a soap opera, like you're just telling a story, it's like a continuation story, people will continue to open those to see what's next in the story.
Yeah, that's awesome. I'm waiting for Jimmy Azell. We need him to come on camera. Okay, Salani, your question, please, unmute. Salani?
Oh, hello. Sorry, I'm wrestling with my nephew here to go to sleep. So my question is, so I do have a podcast. So I was supposed to, continue to do like weekly episodes. I realized, with the self-editing and all those things, kind of getting it monthly. But what are your tools or system to increase the podcast listening list or something like that?
Alani, let's do that in VIP, because that's going to be, unless you have a one.
No, it's okay. I'll do it in VIP.
Okay, awesome. All right. So Sean, final CTA for today's audience. You've been with us for 5 days. I know we're going to move into the VIP room. Jimmy's going to stay here and work a little further with the people here. But what else do you want to share or core takeaway before we move over?
Yeah, so I say again, just do it. Just start. It doesn't matter if you get one person on your list, two people on your list, you're going to get better. So again, go back to day one, know your audience, continue to do that every single day, continue to hone in on that, build solutions to their problems, use those to grab people, and use the hooks to get them over to the page to sign up. It's like if you use that process and you keep them engaged, I guarantee you within 3 months, 6 months, a year, depending on how fast you want to grow your list is based on you. You can grow it as fast or as slow as you want, but you've got to, again, use today's and keep them engaged, or else you would have done that for nothing, right? Because once they're gone, you can revive them, but you've got to keep them engaged, or you've done a lot of this work for nothing.
Awesome. All right. So you know what to do in the chat before we move over. On a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being I should have been somewhere else, 10 being this is outrageously valuable, I got a breakthrough. Yes. All right. Awesome. 10s. So, leaders rise communities up with them, right? So we want to keep inviting people. I want you to think of who could benefit from. We have someone here working on the sink. So that's what you're hearing in the background. So Jimmy, I want you to go ahead and take over. Those of you that are members, founding members, VIP members, you have the link. We're going to go deeper with Sean there and get his eyes on what you're thinking. And Jimmy is going to stay here with everyone else and work a little further with you. So, all right, VIP, let's